It's Shootin the Bull, a podcast by Idaho Department of Fish and Game.
One side.
You want to get low in this chair, left-hand side right here.
What was it? Pop a claw?
Pop this thing.
You gotta pop that claw.
Pop a claw. Oh, that was from today, huh?
Yeah. Pop that claw.
Pop a claw. You got to hit the digipad. Digipads. That's what it's actually called.
We do
Is
that.
it really?
Yeah, digipad.
We do that at home when we're trying to clip our cat's nails.
Pop a claw.
Yeah.
You,
We'll press
you
on.
clip your cat's nails?
Yep.
It allows that?
Haley does it. I don't do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Not all the
you
time.
met our cat, Pepper.
Yeah, Pepper would
She
not roll with
freak
that.
out. There'd
Yeah.
be blood everywhere.
Can you imagine trying to trim a mountain lion's claw?
Nope. After death, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my first podcast.
Ever? Or just
Ever.
Or the just first fish
Ever.
game?
I'm a listener. I listen to political podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That sounds
Get
terrible.
fired up before
NPR.
you go to work.
Oh, gosh.
Get real angry. Yeah.
Yeah. Carson's just fuming on
That's
his
how he
drive.
starts his morning.
30-minute commute. He's just
TJ knows me. I'm pretty well decompressed by the time I get into
Yeah,
town.
he's easy going. Mm-hmm. I bet that drive gives you the option of decompressing like on the way here and way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always had like a 15, 20-minute drive to work.
I wish
And
sometimes
you've gotta
that I
have it.
did because I leave here and I'm home in like 7 minutes, and sometimes the stress of the day is still very much with me.
Yep.
And you know how it is. You walk through the door and it's like, Dad, and I'm just like, hold on. I need a few minutes.
I walk through the door and I've got two little boys on each of my feet and I'm like concrete blocks.
They come and grab your legs.
so no wonder you're so strong climbing up that side hill today.
Doing
Jeez.
baby curls.
Yeah, baby.
Ankle weights. Do you remember those from your track days?
I never used ankle weights.
No, you didn't need them.
I was just too good.
Us chubby kids in middle school needed them.
Us chubby kids.
Could barely turn a triple into a single. All right. Well, here we are in Coeur d'Alene, back in Coeur d'Alene. How many of these have we done in Coeur d'Alene now, TJ? 3 or 4?
This is number 4.
Sweet.
Fourth one.
We're back here with TJ Ross, Regional Communications Manager up here in the Panhandle region. And our guest today is Carson Watkins, the Regional Supervisor. Welcome. First podcast.
First podcast. Yep.
Amazing. We're just, if we sound really tired, we're coming off of a long day out going after mountain lions with hounds. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
It's the first for both you and me.
Right. Yep. And Carson's the master, and we're going to learn everything there is to know about hound hunting and mountain lions.
Let's do it.
All right. How long you been the regional supervisor up here?
Going on 4 years now.
Sweet.
Yeah. Time flies.
But you've already been here before.
Yeah. I started my full-time career with Fish and Game
Okay.
in this office, working one cubicle down from TJ.
Yep.
Oh, still got that stink?
Yeah, exactly.
Can't get rid of it.
No.
It won't wash off.
I'm now
High
one
karate.
office away from you.
Brute cologne.
So,
So
yeah.
then where'd you go after that?
So I spent 5, maybe almost 6 years up here in the fisheries program as a fisheries management biologist. And after that stint up here, I left and went to Eastern Idaho, and I worked out of our Pocatello office in the Southeast region as the regional fisheries manager for just about 4 years down there. Okay. And then we had the opportunity to move back and to take this job. And so we did that in 2022. And so, yeah, that's where I've been since then.
Dang. Were there more mountain lions down there or up here? Is that why you ended up here?
There's more here,
Okay.
but the hunting is equally good down there. It's just different.
Is it easier to hunt them down there than up here, or?
Not necessarily. No, it's just different. I mean, as you know, like every region of Idaho is like, it feels like it could be its own state, right?
Totally.
It's so diverse. And so, yeah, densities are a little higher up here. I think the likelihood or probability, like on any given day that you cut a track, is a little bit higher. But down there, you're hunting around, congregations or aggregations of wintering mule deer, things like that, and so it's just different. I would say that you don't, at least me in my experience, I didn't tree as many cats when I was hunting down there.
Is that just because there's less trees down there?
No, not necessarily.
Good question.
There's
It's
probably
different, right?
There's probably a ratio.
I mean, we treat a cat today.
Yeah.
And I mean, that thing was like, 40 feet up, a big hemlock.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen down there. You tree them in generally a juniper tree or, or like a red fir or something like that if you're a little higher elevation. But yeah, it's different that way, but you experience like just a lot of different stuff down there. You're hunting around these like big groups of wintering mule deer, which is really cool to be around and to see.
So are you like looking for wintering mule deer down there? Is like, this is the prey source, this is where I need to be looking for lions?
Yeah, it's different depending on where you are, like what you're looking for, like where we were at today as an example. You don't really have migratory big game in that area necessarily. Right. They move up slope, they move down slope in relation to snow depth. And so,
but they pretty much just hunker in wherever they're at.
Yeah. I mean, the route that we ran today, the elk and deer that were hanging around that elevation, they're just up the mountain a little ways, like less than probably a half a mile from there, which is where they'll spend the summer and fall. But like, yeah, I mean, the cats move in relation to that, to find food. And I think that's different just, in eastern, the southern half of Idaho where you have, these elk and deer populations that are making bigger movements seasonally. You have lions that are moving in relation to that so that they stay fed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super different than up here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like what I did notice down there is that, especially early on, in the winter, and it was condition dependent, of course, like if it was a drier year, you hadn't gotten a lot of weather yet. Certainly by the time that the hound season, so to speak, started, which was around December 1, you were hunting, you could hunt these more transitional areas, right? As cats definitely like followed their prey to wintering areas.
Okay. So I want to talk about like mountain lion hunting where you first got into it. And as TJ alluded to earlier, like the reason that we're sitting around this table today, you and I are green when it comes to mountain lion hunting.
Total noobs.
And I think we started out, we'll get into like how today went because it was absolutely unreal. But before we do that, how'd you even get into mountain lion hunting?
Yeah, I did not grow up doing it. And mostly because I didn't have a mentor that could teach me.
Yeah.
My dad was an important hunting mentor to me, and we did a lot of deer and elk hunting. That was kind of his forte. And those are the things that he taught me how to do. I always had an interest in hunting with dogs and hunting big game with dogs. I thought that was really interesting. And I'm particularly interested in kind of I call it the collaborative, the collaborative nature of hunting with a big game hound,
Yeah.
They don't do it all on their own. There's the person plays a part, and as a handler, and then, in terms of just helping the dog trail game. Mm-hmm. And I always just thought that was really interesting. And so I always had an interest in hounds, and a friend from high school he came from a family of hound handlers, and they took me out a couple of times, but I actually didn't get into it, really get into it until I was in my late 20s and after I'd started work up here. So my first stint up here, and met a dear friend of mine who was a hound handler and an employee here, close to retirement at the time, but had a lot of experience. And TJ knows who I'm talking about. Had a lot of experience with hounds and is one of those people that's just he's a natural mentor,
sure,
and just a really good person. And was fortunate for him I was fortunate that he took me under his wing and just kind of taught me how to do it. And that didn't happen without a little bit of, begging to take me out.
Bribing.
And reinforcing that I was really serious about this. I really wanted to go, and I wanted to try it, and so give it a real try. And so he took me out, and actually the first time that he took me out on a lion hunt in the vicinity of where we were at today, actually, and yesterday. He introduced me to another person who's become a real dear friend of mine and who I've forged a lifelong friendship with. And as you know, Pete, who originally kind of introduced me to hound hunting, you know, was kind of phasing out of his real, you know, the real hardcore phase of his hound hunting career. You know, the person he introduced me to was just kind of getting started as well. And so I spent a lot of time with him, you know, learning how to handle dogs, learning how to look for sign, learning where to hunt, all that kind of stuff. And he taught me a lot, ended up getting my first pups from him. And yeah, I mean, it was just all, that's where it went from there.
What kind of dogs?
Blueticks.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So Blue is one of those puppies.
Yeah.
One of the dogs you hunted with.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the originals that you got?
Blue was my first pup.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Blue goes way back.
Yeah, he does.
Dang.
I like Blue.
He worked hard today. He earned it, man. So Blue is your first, huh?
First puppy. Yeah.
How long did it take him to get a sense for tree and mountain lions?
Well, I'd had the opportunity, like I was telling you guys the other day, to you know, people let me use their adult dogs, you know, and I was able to kind of cut my teeth hunting that way, you know, and with a trained dog that knew how to catch game. And then when I got my first pups, I really wanted to start from scratch. You know, I didn't want to. A lot of houndsmen, myself included, at this stage in my hunting career, will, you know, when they bring a new pup into their pack, they turn it out with the old dogs, right, and let the old dogs mentor it and teach it how to hunt, with, of course, some work from the handler. But I really wanted to start from scratch, you know, and kind of like build my pack on my own, right?
Yeah.
Build my pack.
And so what I really just relied on me and him working together to teach him how to hunt. And so, it was a lot of, like I told you guys when I first started out, I didn't have a snow machine, didn't have an ATV, right? And I didn't have any of the equipment that you need to really like do it efficiently. And so
you're just hoofing it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm striking off on foot.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was a show.
Yeah. It was a show.
Striking off on snowshoes into, you know, deer winter range and places where I knew that, you know, lions would be hanging out. And
did you wear like buckskins and grow your hair all long and stuff?
No. It wasn't quite like that.
Oh, carry a Hawken rifle.
But yeah, you know, and it's me and this, you know, 6-month-old pup, and you know, trying to teach it to trail game and to do all the things it's supposed to, and a lot of you know, cutting tracks and following those tracks with the puppy and petting them when they do the right thing, and giving them encouragement.
How much sense do they have even at 6 months? Like, are they just being puppies and just being like a dog?
They're like any dog, you know.
Okay.
I mean, you've been around them now. They're like any old dog. And yeah, they act like puppies when they're young for sure. But just like a bird dog.
Yeah.
A lot of this is instinctual, and it's about like, you know, just kind of fostering that instinct and making sure that you encourage them when they're following that instinct and doing the things that you want them to do.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, when they stick their nose in that track, you know, for the first time, you know, and well, every time when they're a pup, you know, it's giving them praise and making sure that they know that that's something that you want them to do. And and just being as excited as they are about something that, that you're trying to teach them.
Man, just hearing all of this and then now reflecting on how today went with Blue.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's that much history there and that he's been in the woods with you since he was a few months old, that for me, that makes today's whole experience even that much sweeter.
Definitely.
Right? Like Blue came through.
Yeah.
And you said, Blue's got this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You literally said that as he's dive bombing down the road cut, and you're like, where's, is it Bess?
Yeah.
We're like, where's Bess? And we're like, oh, there's Blue. And you're like, Blue's got it.
Yeah.
Like you just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's from years of, you know, he's an old dog now, you know, and that's from years of experience with him, and just, I know what to expect out of him. You know, that's why he's 6 or 8 now. He's 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that I just have that confidence in him from many years of, of just, I know what he's going to do. I know how to predict him. And I also just, I know that he's going to stick with it too. And that's the big thing.
How many cats do you think he's treed?
I don't know. I was actually
tenure?
thinking about that today while I was buzzing along on the snow machine. Quite a few. I think he's probably, between the conflict cats that he's helped out with and just hunting, probably 40 to 50.
Wow.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. He had a good year last year. He caught over a dozen lions solo, which for me, and like
You weren't even there.
exactly. Yeah.
Carson was just chilling at home.
Where's Blue?
Yeah.
They do get out, and one of my sayings is that if it can't hold water, when it comes to your fencing and how you're going to keep your dogs, if it can't hold water, it can't hold a hound. They climb, they dig, they will get out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's
devil.
he's a great dog, and he's my buddy. That's the thing about anybody who has a dog as a pet. And they, and these dogs, I often say they're not pets. They're working dogs. They're kind of just like a cattle dog or like a sheep dog. I mean, they're working dogs.
Yeah.
And they're part of the family. They hang out with my kids in the yard. They're my buddies,
Yeah.
and I've spent a lot of intimate moments with them in the woods together and stuff, and we've been through a lot together. But yeah, they're not pets,
Right.
They're working dogs, and they've got a strong purpose. And that's, I think, the most important thing about having working dogs like that. You just really need to foster that prey drive that they have and what they want to do, and so try to hunt them as much as I can.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I enjoyed, even today seeing the look, and particularly in Blue's eyes when he was like, you could just see it. Like it clicked when you set him out on the tracks. Like it's almost like his pupils dilated and it was like, it's go time.
Yeah.
Like he's doing what he was meant to do and he knows it.
And if you notice, because we found a lot of tracks over the last few days. Not all of them were tracks that we would, consider putting a dog on and trying to run. But, we saw a lot of tracks, and you saw how he kind of reacted to that. We maybe a 2 or 3 day old track that we found 2 days ago. And, even then, like you pull him out of the box and you point at something, he knows exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
He knows exactly. And even with that old one, he, just his behavior and stuff, he's telling you something about it. But, every time he comes out of the box, he's got that enthusiasm and he knows exactly what he's supposed to do. And like today, a whole different dog than we had the day before with that fresh one, you point at it, he stuck his nose in it and he was gone.
Yeah.
So
I want to point out something or clarify, and then we can kind of maybe recap yesterday really quick and talk about today, since it was kind of like the best and the worst, like vision of what hound hunting looks like or what mountain hunting looks like with dogs. But I wanted to point out though that for people that are thinking that we're going out and Blue's treeing or catching 12 a year, you're not shooting 12 a year.
no,
You're just treeing them potentially.
yeah. I've been hound hunting for many years now, and I've killed one.
Right.
So, and I don't know if I'll kill another one, but I'm not jonesing to tag another mountain lion.
Yeah.
Most of what I do is just, and this is true of all houndsmen for the most part. There's a lot of misconceptions about hound hunting and its, its place in the management of predators like bears and lions. But most houndsmen, I'd say the vast majority have killed one or two
Really?
lions. Yeah. That's not what it's about. For a hound handler, it's about the dogs. It's about training your dogs. for me to be able to go to a tree and see the dogs work, get pictures, show somebody a cat, that's as good as it gets for me.
Yeah.
It's not important to get a gun involved necessarily. It's more about, again, fueling that, that instinctual drive that the dogs have, and seeing their athleticism play out in the field and stuff. And then for me, just getting pictures. Mountain lions take phenomenal pictures. I mean, if you've ever seen a picture of a lion, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they have those really just
huge
piercing
eyes.
gold eyes. They're really cool. They're just really cool animals,
Yeah.
And to be able to have an experience like we had today where you can see one up close like that it's super special.
Yeah. Man, we'll have some photos after today. TJ got about, what'd you say, 2,400?
I'm at 2,700.
2,700 photos.
A little trigger happy with.
I hope most of those aren't of me.
I think
A lot of them
are, yeah.
So I got another question that I don't know that we'll use this, but I want to at least capture it. So you've got the hat that you wear as you're a houndsman. You love it. You're passionate about it. I've known this from talking with you. I've seen it in your eyes. Like, you just love it. And I get that. And I love that. The other hat you wear is you're the regional supervisor of the Panhandle. You work for Idaho Fish and Game. So speak a little bit to like how hound hunting for mountain lions fits in with big game management, with predator management, how those merge together. Because I imagine there's a lot of misconceptions about that too.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And I am a hound hunting advocate. I'm an advocate for all of the traditional ways that people in Idaho use fish and wildlife. And I am a consumer. I'm also professionally, I like to think that I'm a pragmatic professional and an objective person that uses, all of the different types of science that we use to inform our management decisions and inform the commission about the decisions that they make. And so those two things are separate. I do love hunting mountain lions, and I have an immense appreciation for having big cats on the landscape to use, consumptively, and to have for intrinsic value, and for hound handlers to enjoy. And at the same time, I obviously have a recognition for, how that interfaces with the other things that the state and the department on behalf of our public is trying to manage for. But those two things, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, all the houndsmen that I know are fierce advocates for lions and for bears and for hound hunting. And they all hunt deer and elk too.
Right.
That's also an important part of their culture and their livelihood and stuff. So
Not with hounds.
exactly.
Not with that.
Just clearing that up.
Good job.
So a lot of people enjoy both. And this part of the world, this part of mountain lion distribution, this northern Idaho, northwest Montana, northeast Washington, up into parts of BC and Alberta, like the highest lion densities across their distribution, And so we live in a place, because of mostly driven by this type of habitat and the presence of white-tailed deer, we have some of the highest lion densities that you'll find anywhere. We probably don't support a natural density of lions in this area just because of the rate of exploitation, or the harvest rate that we deliberately apply to those populations to help maintain, or not maintain, but to reach our deer, elk, moose objectives also. But we do support a very high density of lions up here, and they got to eat something.
Yeah.
Right. They have to eat something. And the management of lions and managing for something below a natural density of predators, talking about like things like lions and wolves and black bears in this country, is important.
Yeah.
It's really important that we have a a lion management plan. And that's why it's really important that we have an elk management plan, because, you know, our lions up here eat a lot of elk, and we have places where we have higher than desired lion densities where we have poor performance of elk, and we're trying to rectify that. We're trying to improve elk populations, and there's a lot that goes into that, but part of it is predation management. And lions are important predators of elk that you know, we have to focus some management attention on. And that's where hound hunting becomes really important. One is because it's super effective. You know, most lions that are harvested annually in Idaho, which we harvest about on average, roughly 650-ish lions a year in the state, right? And
that's it?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
You know, you look at things like elk, like we harvest like 20,000 elk in the state every year, right? It's just, 650 lions. And most of those, the lion's share, if you will.
There we go. That's
pretty good pun. Are harvested through the use of hounds. And so your ability to be effective at harvesting lions and applying some level of exploitation that you want to see on that population is best achieved when you can use something like hound hunting. Also, hound hunting it allows hunters to be selective,
right?
In the sense that you're getting a good up close look at this animal before you choose to harvest it or not. So in some cases where we don't in Idaho anymore manage lions with a quota-based system, but we have in the past utilized quotas to manage mountain lions, and cases where, let's say you have a female quota and you want to more conservatively manage the mortality of females in a given population, the selectivity that hunting with hounds allows you to have can help you with that, because hunters can be discriminate about what they choose to harvest and what they don't, because they can see it.
Yeah.
They can sex ID that animal, and they can choose to let it go. Certainly if a quota's been met, they know whether that's something that they can harvest or not. And that ability, it can be there with other forms of hunting, but it's not, you don't have the ability to be quite as discriminate and to be quite as sure about a decision that you make as you can when you're like right under the tree and you're able to see that animal and you know it's a male or a female.
Right.
It's a kitten or it's not.
Yeah. No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Man, I want you to know, I appreciate that this is something that you do. I think it's important. And even just watching you interact with other people who hunt with hounds or interact with the trappers that we ran into while we were out there. I think the other piece of this is that you get what makes them tick, right? Because it makes you tick. You can relate to them in that way. And I think that's super valuable. And I feel very privileged to have been a part of it.
Yeah,
see it
I
play
appreciate
out.
that. I mean, what I tell people a lot of times is, and this can be said of all the people in our agency, is that what I want the public to know about me and about us is that we're exactly like them.
Yep.
The gentlemen that we met and have run into multiple times, while we've been out this winter hunting, whoever it is, we're just like them. And the only difference is that, we do this job,
right,
and we wear this hat, whereas the majority of people that we interact with don't. And so, yeah, I mean, I like to do all the same things that people do. And hound hunting is one of them. And I think that, when it just kind of relating back to what we were just talking about, mountain lion hunting and whatever your management, the state's management objectives are and how we're trying to manage lions in relation to the conflict that they pose, or an elk or, an ungulate management objective that we're trying to achieve, where managing predation in one direction or another is important for that. Having a lion management plan is important for informing that. It's also important for informing or ensuring that we have lion populations into the future,
right,
and that we are managing for their conservation and their presence on the landscape. And houndsmen and lion hunters, they are the biggest advocates and one of the best things for lion conservation. And And they're not the only ones. There's all kinds of people that care about lions, whether they interact with them the way that we have been the past couple of days or not. And they just, they're more in the mutualistic camp and like knowing that lions exist, that they're a functional predator on the landscape, or they're a houndsman that occasionally harvests lions or enjoys, the dog-cat relationship. All those people are good for lion conservation. And hunting in particular, hunting is good for lion populations. It's good for mountain lion conservation. It's not good for individual animals that end up being the ones that die as a result. But we don't manage individuals. We manage populations, and the engagement of hunters in that process, and houndsmen in particular, is important for lion conservation. And it's kind of funny. You go back and you look at the way, just the way wildlife policy around lions, just in the Intermountain West, but in Idaho, has evolved over, the last century. Houndsmen have, they originally advocated for lions becoming a big game animal in Idaho. So you go back to the early 70s, lions were, I don't know what the exact, classification and statute was for mountain lions, but they were managed probably not a lot different than we manage coyotes now. And obviously their population dynamics and demographics are much different than something like coyotes.
How long ago was that switch?
So I believe it was 1971. The Idaho legislature reclassified mountain lions as a big game animal, which is that's huge, right?
Yeah,
because
and that was houndsmen that kind of led the charge.
Houndsmen, rural houndsmen in the Intermountain West. These are people that, like loggers, miners, people that live in the woods, rural Idahoans. Like, they're the ones that really, and hound handlers. They're hound handlers too. A lot of them. They advocated for that change. Having that classification that's a big deal, right? Because that comes with protection,
right?
And
management plans.
Yeah,
things like management plans follow, and that comes with the state now protects them as a big game animal, and the commission sets seasons for their take, and they're now managed in a fashion that's more sustainable, if you will. And so, like, that was really important. And then around, I think it was 2 years later, the state required a tag to hunt mountain lions. So I think that was 1973-ish. You needed a tag to be able to hunt and take a mountain lion. So that was another big change, right? And somewhere in there, I think maybe in relation to their change in classification to a big game animal, came the mandatory check requirement. So with if anybody that harvests a lion in Idaho has to meet a mandatory check requirement within 10 days of their harvest. So you present the pelt and the skull to the Fish and Game, and we seal the pelt with a tag, and then we extract a premolar tooth from the skull, and we use that to age the animal. And that, that's been a big deal for mountain lion management too, because it helps us build the models that we use to manage mountain lions. It helps us track the changes in sex ratios in the harvest, and sex ratios in relation to the age of individuals in the harvest. And so one of the things that in the literature that's really shown to be influential on whether a lion population is growing or it's getting smaller is the proportion of adult females greater than 3 years old that are represented in the harvest. So generally, when that value is north of like 25%, your lion population is probably, based on studies that have been done, it's declining. And so that's something that we track really closely, is what's the proportion of adult females older than 3 represented in the harvest annually.
Okay.
And in some cases where we're trying to maybe have fewer lions, that's a good thing.
Right.
Could be, right? That could be in line with our management goals.
right.
Our management goals for lions in relation to what we're trying to achieve for, their prey populations. Or if we're trying to manage the population in the other direction, that's something that we want to tighten up. And so super valuable because of that requirement, to have that data annually to look at through time, to see how things change, to see if those data support whether our management, our prescriptive management is working. And also super important for the commission to be able to make changes if they need to, right? I mean, they can be reactive because through the harvest season, that information's coming in, and they can make changes if they need to. They can make changes when they set our big game seasons every 2 years if they need to. They can be responsive to the trends in a population because we have that information. And so just that history and how that all played out has been really important. It's been really important to how we manage lions. It's been really important for making sure that we protect and conserve lions at the same time.
Right. Carson, you may not know the answer to this question because it's been so long, but has the ethos of hound hunters changed at all? Like since that 1971 change to big game? Was pre-1971, was the sport similar as it is now, where 9 out of 10 times you're just treeing a cat and not harvesting one? Or back then, was it a lot more? It was a lot more harvest prone.
I wasn't hunting then, so sure. I don't know, and I don't even know a lot of people that were hound hunting back then, but I don't think so. I think that for a very long time now, you got to remember, you go back to the turn of the last century, and wildlife management was much different than it is now. Much different than the post-World War II era that we're in now of wildlife management, where it's, it's more modernized, right? I mean, we have professional agencies. It's merit-based hiring. It's not the days of the state game warden. Things are different. We know more about wildlife populations, and you go back there to that era, and there was more active predator management because we were trying to revive fairly depressed populations of ungulates. Believe it or not, you go back to the turn of the last century, in most of the lower 48, where white-tailed deer occur, there were actually damn few of them.
That's shocking.
And so, white-tailed deer at the abundance that they are now, where in some cases they're kind of a nuisance.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. Something we take for granted now, whitetails being in the abundance that they are nationwide, and again, in places that they occur, they're not everywhere, but where they are is it's not an accident, right? Those were deliberate wildlife management efforts to increase the number of whitetails, and around here, elk. And so there were some pretty aggressive campaigns to reduce predator populations. And I think that mid-century, mid-20th century, that changed a lot, where we went from bounties on things like wolves, bears, lions, to transitioning our relationship with predators. And a lot of that, I think, was driven by a lot of these rural hunters who were probably part of lineages that just a generation before were bounty hunting lions and trying to reduce things like lion populations to grow more meat with feet, right? Yeah. That most people like to harvest for table fare, to, hey, this is a pretty enjoyable thing to go out and do in the wintertime when there's not a lot to do. And hey, these hounds are pretty fun to work with. And it's really exhilarating to catch game with them. And we should protect lions to some extent. Yeah. And we should, there was an evolution of people's relationship with predators. And I think that if you go back to that generation, my guess is that no, that ethos has not changed a lot, and their relationship with cats, houndmen then versus now, their relationship with cats is probably much the same. Where it's not about just killing everyone that you catch.
Right.
You know?
That's interesting. So yesterday, we've been at this for 2 days. The goal was for TJ and I to just kind of see, and I'm just explaining this for folks listening. But the goal was for us, because you hadn't ever seen a mountain lion before, right?
No, not in the wild. I've never seen one. So
and I, aside from Carson's photos, I've never seen a mountain lion either. And so I think the goal was for us to just go out. Mostly it was just to go out and be like, this is a type of hunting that's unparalleled. And I think we experienced that for sure today. A little bit yesterday. Yesterday was what we found, 2 slightly older tracks.
Yeah.
One really nice wolf track, the size of TJ's entire outstretched palm. But yeah, so yesterday was going out, running the trails. We had the side-by-sides at that point. And then overnight we get, a foot of snow?
Yeah.
So Carson changes up the game plan, and we go out with snow sleds today.
Yeah. So that when this idea for a podcast about hound hunting and introducing the public to something that not a lot of people are able to experience, it was like, well, if we're going to do a podcast about hound hunting,
Yeah.
you guys need to go out and experience what it is. So,
Which was a great idea.
so we went and did a hunt so that we could have a more fruitful discussion about what it's like, and you guys know all the sights and sounds and smells of it.
Right. And going into it open-minded, like I said, we both had tags, and we were both in a situation where we could have taken a shot if we wanted to, but I don't think we were going into it with that expectation. And that was kind of cool to be open-minded to that, like just seeing what the process looks like from start to finish.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's one of those things where, I love taking people out so that they can experience, seeing a lion up close, so that they can experience the dogs and what the dogs do.
Yeah.
Especially if they're, kind of unsure about hound hunting and what it's all about, being able to show people the reality of it is really helpful. But even to go out and harvest one, I think a lot of hunters, certainly a lot of Western big game hunters want to take a cat at some point in time. That's something that's like on their bucket list. And so, and it's very much like it's a novelty kind of thing,
Yeah. Why is that?
I think being able to do it, mountain lions aren't rare. There's a lot of lions in the Intermountain West, probably north of 30,000 or so. And they're not necessarily a rare species, but in the Western United States, but they do not occur at super high densities. They don't occur at the density of white-tailed deer or elk or even moose for that matter, So
yeah, I feel like elusive's a good word, right? Because we could spend 30 years hunting in the woods and never see one, you know. And some people have seen maybe once or two, but I mean, up until today, for all the time I've been out in the woods, I'd never seen one.
Yeah.
So,
and then the meat's delicious too. And so, I think there's the novelty of that also, it's just being able to see one is a novelty in and of itself, and an experience that is super hard to come by unless you have hounds like I do. And then, the ability to enjoy mountain lion meat, which you don't put in your freezer every single year if you're most hunters, is also kind of a special thing. So,
gotcha. So we pull up the parking spot today, and your dogs are all excited. Get the snowmobiles out. What's like the first thing that you're excited for or looking for from at 4:30 whenever we got there? What's like the first thing that's like a good telltale sign of like today's gonna be a good day or today's gonna suck?
Good snow. Yeah.
And we got that last night.
Yeah. Good snow is like the, that puts the odds in your favor, for people like me that, I'm kind of a weekend warrior because I got to hold down a full-time job with the Fish and Game department. So I don't get to hunt nearly as much as I wish that I could,
Yeah.
And so I hunt when I can. And sometimes that's when there's fresh snow. Sometimes it's not. But if you're a guy like me, you really rely on good conditions like that because, and really what that's all about is if you have fresh snow, and I think I described like the other day, like what the ideal conditions are. And it's like, it's a little bit of snow, where like it comes overnight and then it stops, it stops like in the middle of the night. Right. So there's a period of time where it's not snowing where, cats are moving around.
Yeah. It's a clean slate.
Exactly. And they're leaving evidence of their movements across the landscape.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, if there's a storm and it's snowing, everything's getting covered up. And so, like there's a lot of anticipation when you strike out for the day to go hunt anything. Right.
Yeah.
And I really love being out in the winter too. That's the thing that I love most about this. It's so quiet in the woods. And, like today, it was like not a breath of wind.
No.
There's like fresh snow, like hanging. Did you notice like all the big grand firs, like they were just hanging with snow, like just big Christmas trees, just like socked in with snow.
Yeah. Blue sky kind of poking out a little bit.
Yeah. And the clouds were dancing around and the sun was poking in and out. I mean, and there's no one in the woods either. I mean, occasionally you see some cross-country skiers and there's trappers in the woods too. We've run into a couple trappers the last few days, but like otherwise there really aren't a lot of people and you have the woods to yourself. It's just a really cool time of year to be out. And so that's what I love about it. And just like anytime you go to the woods, you never know what you're going to find, and you never know what the day is going to bring and what kinds of experiences that you're going to have. And so, that's kind of all the stuff that goes into the anticipation of like, of the day. And on a day like today where, we had fresh snow and it stopped snowing, like, just to paint people a picture of what today was like, it stopped snowing at like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
So right as you were getting there to the trailhead.
Yeah, pretty much. I got there a couple hours later, but yeah, I mean, it had just finished snowing. And so we had, a blank canvas. Right. And I mean, you saw the snow today. It was super clean.
Yeah.
And you saw that track that we came across. I mean, it was just, I called it a clean track. I mean, it was just picture perfect. Right.
Carson just slams on the brakes of the snowmobile and fist bumps or sticks like fist in the air. That was awesome,
I was super excited because we were coming to the end of our route. And I was starting to, I try to keep my optimism up,
Especially if you're guiding two greenhorns,
I'm not going to lie. I was starting to feel like it wasn't going to happen that day. I mean, we couldn't even scratch out a bobcat track today.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
What you said is incredibly rare.
In that area, it is. There's a lot of bobcats in that area. And so to not see their tracks is somewhat unusual. And, who knows what's going on with that. I mean, it could be that, we were wrong place, wrong time, and we didn't see the tracks. But yeah, I mean, I was not feeling great about the way that the day was going to end at that point. And then, boom, it happens,
How many miles had we gone at that point from where we started?
Well, that's a 26-mile loop.
Wow.
Total, so
really?
Truck to truck, it's about 26 miles.
So it's probably 15.
Yeah. So, 18. I mean, that road, right, from that road that we drove up on.
Yeah.
Where it starts on the main road and ends on the main road.
Where you dropped your shovel?
Exactly. That was a marker.
Yeah.
Guys to follow marker. But that's, that's like I don't know, 8-mile span or something like that. But you remember that road, it just weaves in and out of all that wrinkly stuff. And so when you talk about like where you're going to find mountain lions, I mean, that's just a great spot. It's a real wrinkly face, south facing aspect, I mean, a lot of game moves in there to winter. And it's just the right elevation, right aspect. And there's just a lot of diversity in the topography, right? So it's a gamey spot. The habitat's really good. And I mean, you saw like the other day when we were hunting on old snow, how many moose and deer and elk tracks are in there. I mean, the whitetails are thick in there, and whitetails are meat with feet. And that's what mountain lions mostly eat. And so that's why it's such a good spot to hunt cats, is because it's just got all the right ingredients. It's great habitat, it supports a lot of wintering game, and it's a good place to be a cat and to hunt. It's a good area for them to hunt.
It felt kind of like a layer cake or like a cross section, because we're contouring and side hilling, essentially not really gaining or losing any elevation. But you mentioned like all the animals coming up and down. It's like if you just kind of covered that entire elevation band, you're going to come across something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good route. But yeah, all total truck to truck, it's roughly 26 miles.
Dang. Yeah. It did not feel that long.
Yeah. Well, we were scooting for part of it. I mean, you get on that sled and you can really cover some ground. So
when you saw the track and we pulled up behind you, like I I feed off of other people's energy. I could feel like your excitement. I could see it in your eyes. I could feel the energy. Like, walk us through like the thoughts that are going on in your head. Like, you've got the track, you're processing it, you're getting the dogs ready. Like, what's going on in your head at that point?
Well, for me, like that's the first like stage of the hunt, right? You got to find a track. And as you guys have come to find out, it's not a trivial task, you know?
Not at all.
I mean, if you went and pulled 100 hunters off the street and said, go find me a lion track, you know, they would probably struggle, you know, it's hard. It's not easy. And that's where the fresh snow really comes into play, because it makes it easier, and it doesn't. It makes it easier because you can better gauge the age of a track. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, your probability of cutting one, unless you've got a lot of animals on the move, goes down, right? Because with the duration of time that snow is exposed and not getting covered up by new snow, animals are moving around on that. And so, so that's like half the fun to me. It's like this, it's kind of like an adult Easter egg hunt kind of thing, right? Like you got to find that track.
Well, and to provide perspective, yesterday we spent 8 hours or more buzzing around on a side-by-side
easily 50 miles,
fresh tracks, and didn't find them.
Yeah. And we're looking for a lot of stuff, right? We're hunting and we're in an area with, that has wolves. And so we're being cognizant of that. We're keeping track of wolf sign, because we don't want to turn out dogs anywhere where we think some wolves are hanging out. We're looking for lots of different kinds of lion sign to include tracks. We're looking to figure out where the deer are at, where are the elk at. And then we kind of know to like hunt in relation to that somewhat. But yeah, you're looking at all these variables, and you're processing them to inform your hunt. Yeah. But the first stage is like, you got to find that track. And then from there, now we got really lucky today. We did. We got.
Do you have your lucky pants on?
I have my lucky pants.
Is it warm again?
My lucky pants on. Yes. I wore these lucky pants just for you fellas. So,
I know.
Thanks, man.
so that we could guarantee a good day. But
yes.
Yeah, it's after you find the track. Like today, obviously there wasn't a whole lot to it, right? We cut a track where a cat was moving. Yeah. And it turned out that cat was exactly, it was moving uphill from us. And it turned out that cat had not made a lot of movements since he made the track that we found. So, we got really lucky, and it was a pretty short race. But, for me, after you find you find the track, and it's like an exhilarating experience, because, again, like there's not a mountain lion behind every tree, you got to work to find those tracks. And sometimes on clean snow like we had today, they can be very easy to find if they're there. On snow like we were hunting on 2 days ago, not so much.
I bet, yeah.
It could be really hard to find those tracks. You remember those tracks that we saw from that family of, there was that female that appeared to be accompanied by 3 adult kittens that we found. Those were not very descript tracks. They were kind of hard to see.
Right.
And so, sometimes you like really got to study the ground and to find them. Mm-hmm. And then after you do, the fun part is just putting the puzzle pieces together, because not every race is the same. Sometimes they take 10 minutes like ours did today. Sometimes they take 10 hours. And I mean, cats and hound dogs will take you into the most amazing places that you've never been before. They will take you places in your hunting career that you have never been before, and that you would not go unless you were following those hounds.
And you may never go back.
Like you wouldn't have gone to the bottom of that creek drainage today.
No.
And exactly. No. So
barely made it out.
But yeah, I mean, you follow those tracks, and you put the puzzle pieces together, I mean, and that's where that collaborative aspect of hunting with a hound comes into play, because one of the misconceptions is that, the houndsman goes and they find a track, and then they turn out the dog, and then the lion ends up in a tree. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. And 9 out of 10 tracks that you trail or animals that you trail will be infinitely more complicated than the one today, where you might end up at a kill, and or a place where that animal's been daying up and living around a kill, or in a place where they've just been spending a lot of time, and there can be a mess of tracks, and the dogs don't know whether they're following something forward or backward or.
So you're talking about what the dog is finding upon first getting into like the zone of the mountain lion, not what we're walking into after it's been treed. Right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you have something like we did today where it's basically just a single thread track from where it laid it down across a road, for example, to where that animal ends up in a tree.
Yeah.
Presumably that cat was above us, just bedded down somewhere when the dogs jumped it. But, a lot of times, like I said, 9 out of 10 times, like you end up in it's a much more complicated story to try to figure out with the dog, and imagine a lion makes a kill, right? And so the thing with mountain lions is that, like, apart from, maybe like a female that's raising kittens and, or a male that's looking for a mate, like, mostly what they're doing is they're feeding on kills or they're hunting to make a kill, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, they got to eat, and they're large carnivores. They take a lot of food resources to keep them going. And so they are actively searching for food if they do not have a kill. And what that means is that, like, a lot of times when you cut a track, that cat, and especially if it's not, relatively fresh, that cat's wandering around, like using the wind, working the wind and the topography to try to find prey. Mm-hmm. And they might cover a lot of ground. They might do a lot of different things. They lay down and sleep. They make a foray from there. They might come back. When they have a kill, I think the other day I described it as like a kill can sometimes be like the hub of a wheel. Right. And then this cat was making forays out from that, if they're a male, to maybe find females, to go bed down or whatever. And those are like these forays are like spokes on a wheel. And you can imagine, like, you intercept one of those spokes and your dog trails those tracks back to the hub of this wheel, and how complicated that can be for the dog to sort out. And so that's where the hound handler really comes into play, and you have to be there to help the dogs, and figure out, what's going on, and use some deductive reasoning to assess what that animal has done and how to get the dog on the freshest end of that animal's movements. And, that's super fun. And that's like putting the rest of your puzzle together there. Yeah. And there's always an out. We call it the out, or the out track, where, especially in an area where like a cat's really been moving around a lot and living, you think of a small area where they've been bedding down or going to feed on a kill from there. There can be a lot of sign. A lot of it can be relatively fresh, stuff that really gets the dog's excitement up. But they don't know the freshness between this track and that track that might be 2 hours, difference in age. And so you got to find where that cat left that area, and you got to get them oriented on that in the right direction.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that they couldn't like distinguish how old certain tracks were.
Well, I mean, like you saw Blue's reaction to an old track the other day. Like they know something.
He was kind of like, meh.
Exactly. And you can tell a lot about how old a track is if you don't know when it snowed last, judging that dog's excitement level. But if you get into an area where, like, you've got, let's say, a 10-hour-old track and one that's 2 hours old, one's going to smell probably a lot stronger to that dog. But, you can start to understand how they might get confused in a situation like that, where there's just a lot of scent in one area. Yeah. So
they're just eating breadcrumbs. They don't care if they're 2 hours old or 5 minutes old.
Exactly.
Interesting. But so can you explain how you're actually like monitoring this? Because that's something I wasn't expecting. Like you're holding this GPS while your dogs are actively, and we could hear them. That was super cool. But you're watching on your GPS these dogs kind of contour around the hill. Yeah. And so that's how you kind of, you're kind of deciphering what the dogs are doing, and you were relaying it to TJ and I, you're like, okay, now they're bringing him back down. Now they're coming down the hill. Now we can anticipate the cat jumping the road ahead of us. Like that was so cool. Explain how like you get those insights from looking at your GPS.
Yeah. So hound hunting has come a long way in the last 30, 40 years, right? Used to be, if you went back to either a little history to, I guess,
please
lead into that question with, which is that if you go back 30, 40 years, you go back before that, right? Before radio telemetry and GPS technology, like hound doggers probably spent as much time looking for lost dogs
I bet they did, dude.
as they did actually hunting.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sure.
because you didn't know where they were. Like you had to stay within earshot. You had to follow their tracks. I mean, you talk about needing good snow, you probably needed good snow
just to find your dang
just
dogs.
as much to figure out where your dogs went to. And so GPS technology and before that radio telemetry were game changers for hound hunting. And so, back in the old days, and people hunted, bears and bobcats and lions and raccoons with hounds before that. And you had to keep pace with your dog, not keep pace with them, but you had to follow them.
Yeah.
You had to actively follow them so that you could stay within earshot and know where they were. So dogs opening and being vocal on the trail was super important. So you knew where they were, and you had to follow their tracks and stay with them. And you still do, right? Because, like I was just explaining, most of the time, like you end up needing to help the dogs, and you need to play an active part on the trail where the action is. And so it's not like you're just sitting in the machine drinking coffee, like watching the receiver, which I did today, but I gotta
and TJ and I were watching you.
Got to remind everybody listening
now?
to this is that you guys were incalculably lucky today, and it generally doesn't happen like that.
So today literally was an anomaly.
It was an anomaly.
Wow.
I've had a handful of days like this ever.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Generally a race is not quite that simple. And anyway, so even now, like with GPS technology, you have to keep up with your dogs to help them out, to decipher what's going on that trail and stuff like that. But late 80s, early 90s, radio telemetry technology was more readily available for just the public, and that technology was beginning to be used for hound hunting. So you had the big receiver, and you had to use
like an antenna.
Exactly, a big antenna to try to figure out where your dogs had gone to. But you talk about cutting down on the amount of time you spent looking for lost dogs or figuring out where your dogs were. I mean, you could really use that technology to pinpoint where they were. And then, probably mid 2000s ish, GPS technology started to come on, and that's the type of technology that you saw me using today. The same stuff that like TJ uses with his bird dog for training purposes, and then just for location purposes too. So I'm holding on to it. So the dog's wearing a GPS collar. It's got an antenna, and it transmits to a satellite, and then that ends up at my receiver, and I can see where I am in relation to where the dogs are.
Yeah.
And so it's super helpful. It probably makes people more successful in some ways, but for me, like the big advantage is that it really helps you to keep your dogs safe. Mm-hmm. It teaches you a lot about how, for instance, lions use the landscape and relate to their surroundings and stuff like that. Kind of like today, like I told you guys, like, hey, watch the receiver. That cat's going to go up the slope and it's going to start side hilling. And sure enough, they do, and you can learn things about them following their tracks, of course. But then like you're able to see more of the trail and how it plays out when you're watching that receiver, and you can see more of those kind of fine scale movements and stuff, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a must have anymore, with wolves on the landscape and just the threat there to hounds and having them out too long, it's super helpful for keeping the dogs safe.
Yeah.
Connor, I want to turn to you for a moment. So Carson just described, found the tracks, turned the dogs loose. We're listening to them. You and I are sitting there just like trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to shove half a sandwich down my face, thinking this is going to be quick. I'm used to like other styles of hunting where it's like urgent.
Yeah. We're like grabbing like the rifle and we're like, should we grab, like, should we take layers off? Yeah. He's just like taking all of his layers off, like getting ready to climb.
Like, hold on.
Carson was eating sandwich. He's like, hold on, guys.
Yeah. I was like,
let's just give it a second.
I should probably eat.
Yeah. So and then Carson started eating. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to sit here for a sec.
So then we're sitting there, we're kind of hanging out, watching the dogs. And then we hear Blue. Like, what do you call it? Baying? Ball? What is it?
Yeah.
He opens up.
He opened up. He gave the big, long, the stereotypical,
which was
hound dog ball.
Freaking cool.
After
like
probably
you could hear it echoing across the canyon that we were in. And it was like.
And that's when he jumped the cat.
That's when he jumped the cat.
That's when he jumped the cat. Yep.
Okay.
So when he was up top.
Yeah. So if you remember,
Gotcha,
we turned him out on that track.
Yeah.
And we didn't know where that cat was, right?
No.
We had no idea. We know that we had covered quite a bit of, country at the same slope, and that
behind
cat,
us, right?
Exactly, in the other direction, and that unless I missed something very obvious, that cat had not crossed the road and come down slope
right
on that side of us. And so we didn't know if he'd come down again, in the direction that we hadn't covered yet. But certainly, we had figured out, we'd knocked out like a big side of one side of the box, right? And
were you pretty confident when you turned the dogs loose that the cat was still up?
I had no idea
that direction.
I had no idea where it was, and it was hard to gauge, how fresh that track was. I don't know how old it was. I mean, for all I know, like that cat had been bedded down up there for, most of the day or something like that. It's hard to tell, but it had worked uphill. I don't know, 500-ish yard, 450, 500 yards, something like that, and it had walked up a ridge, side hilled for a while, and then gone up over the ridge into the drainage that was just ahead of us, which was a kind of a large, mostly unroaded drainage. And I think just over the crest of that ridge, it was bedded down. Because if you remember, when we turned Blue out, it's not like he just lost his mind when he smelled that track. I mean, he moved very deliberately and with a lot of purpose, if you remember. Like
he was gone. I mean,
he stuck his nose in it, and then he was
figuring out
he was off.
Yeah.
And then you remember when I packed in Sis, she just exploded up that hill.
She did.
Yeah.
Right behind him. And then when he got up to that ridge, we didn't really hear anything. He was working that track quietly, and so was Bess. And then he got to that ridge, and you heard him just open. And I don't know if that's because he got eyes on it, or he just got a really strong smell, like he put his nose in the bed or something. Who knows? But his behavior altogether changed.
Couldn't contain himself.
And he opened, and then he opened again, and then it was 30 seconds later, and then his behavior altogether changed again, and he was hammering. It was like a bark every 5 seconds, and that's when I knew he had it in the tree. And so,
when I remember you saying that, like he's treed.
Yeah,
he said that,
exactly.
And I was like,
but there was probably a good 2 or 3 minutes before he jumped the cat. When he treed the cat, right? Because they had.
Yeah, I said it was 30 seconds. Maybe it was a little longer.
I think it was a couple minutes.
Yeah,
but it was quick.
I didn't
know what to expect.
And it takes. We talked about locating, right, and the dog's ability, which really comes with a lot of experience, to locate game in a tree,
like visually.
They can a lot of times. They know. This thing, okay, it scurried up, it climbed this tree, and they can smell that. But they really, to keep their excitement and to keep them engaged in that tree, it's really important for them to put eyes on what's up there, and a good dog doesn't need to see it to know that there's game in that tree and to stick with it. But it helps when they do what Blue did today. if you notice, like he got some high ground so he could see into that tree, and he saw it. And now, like if he wasn't committed before, he's super committed now.
All in.
He sees it.
Yeah.
And he got at that cougar's level, and he looked at it, and he just kept bawling at it. And
which meant he was probably only like 5 feet from the tree, base of the tree of how steep it was.
Boy, it was steeper than a cow's face.
Oh man.
And snowy and slick. Yeah, there was a lot of snow on bear grass, which snow on bear grass is slick. And then you had the
all those down
steepness
logs.
to that. Oh man.
Yeah, it's an ankle breaker, man.
Yeah. So just to clear up misconceptions, because there's a lot of those around hound hunting. That's another one that we talked about this, what's actually happening when a dog is trailing game, in this case, lions.
Yeah.
I'll speak to that, 'cause that's kind of my thing, is hunting lions and bobcats. But, you hear me talk about this, and we'll say things like we ran a cat. We had a chase, or
a race.
A race. That's kind of the common terminology is you had a race. And I don't know actually why it's called a race. I think it's because it's a little bit of a race against time, and it is a race to catch up with that cat in time. And I think that's an important thing for people to know about this, is that it's not like lions in this case are being like chased to exhaustion, or that the entire time like the dog is in hot pursuit of this thing, like right on its tail, and this cat is doing all these tricks and scaling cliffs and trying to get away from the dog. I mean, the actual like chase, if you will, after the animal's jumped and it's on its feet, is, as you saw today, it's seconds. Maybe minutes, right? I think the only reason why we didn't hear Blue start to bark treed for a few minutes is because he was trying to get eyes on it. I think that cat was in a tree, more than likely. And so, because
Sooner.
often, like, and I've seen it play out before, like when I used to hunt down in southeast Idaho, where it's a lot more open, you can actually see this whole thing. If you're really lucky, you can see it all unfold. You can't, in most situations, like up here, because there's not as much open country. So just your odds of seeing how the whole thing plays out are.
But down there's just one tree, and you're like, oh, there it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Going to that.
Yeah, that tree. Watch.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the places you hunt lions down there, they actually are like, it's like pretty thick PJ or pinyon juniper, but it's open enough that you can see this kind of stuff play out. And I've seen before, like, the dogs are trailing a lion, they're tracking its past movements, and then you see it get up. And I've been lucky enough in a few situations to be like across the canyon in an open enough area where you see the dogs trailing, they're starting to close in. I don't know the lion's there, but all of a sudden, like, it steps up, it gets up and it steps out of the tree. And like that, from the jump to the tree, is almost always with a lion like less than 500 yards. Max.
And are they
600 yards.
running when they get up?
Often not. They could be, but often not. And so they get up and they might walk, or they might lope or do a fast walk to try to put some distance between them and the dogs. But you have something like, like a canine that's just a cursorial predator. And I mean, they're scooting, right?
Yeah.
And they can run. I mean, you see the dogs when we rode them.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can run miles and not slow down,
We didn't ride them.
That is I thought the same thing.
We put a little saddle on them.
ROAD. Rode them.
Yeah.
They run
That
on
was
the
pretty
road.
cool.
But running out in front of the machine or the pickup to get exercise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they can run forever, right? Not forever, but they can run a long ways. And
That's good.
and a cat, a lion, I shouldn't say a cat.
Oh.
A lion can't.
Oh, okay.
So just smaller lungs to body mass ratio. I think I described to TJ that lions are kind of like the sports car of the cat world, the sleek, a stalk ambush predator, like intense, powerful, like bursts of energy and speed when they take down prey, but they're not made for, covering long distances, with a lot of continuous exertion, like
hurdles,
a canine can. And so, yeah, from the time that animal is on its feet or it is moving away from the hounds, the quote unquote chase, it doesn't last very long. And so it's not like this thing is just being run into the ground. I mean, they cover some ground, and when they realize they're not going to put enough distance between them and the hounds, and that they could potentially, run out of energy, they climb up a tree. Which you think about, like how these cats exist in an environment with competing prey animals and and conspecifics that are that are scavenging their kills or whatever. Like, I mean, they're living in this like relatively silent environment. Lions don't make a lot of noise and stuff. And so they're solitary. So they're hanging out alone quietly. When something like a pack of wolves comes in, for example, and they like scavenge a lion kill, like that's a very like reactionary response for them to just put distance between them and climb up a tree,
right?
Which is the same thing that they do when the hounds are starting to close in on them.
Yeah.
So, and then, they climb up a tree, they get up there to some comfortable elevation in it, and they kind of just sit there. And they sit there, they watch the dogs, they watch people when they show up. And and it's actually a fairly controlled thing, as you saw today.
Surprisingly controlled. Like when we walked up.
Yeah, eerily.
Sometimes you get one that's a little fidgety, or they're uncomfortable with it for some reason. And that's sort of the anomaly. And they might decide to get out of the tree.
What would you call it today? Jumpy or?
Yeah, they could twitchy. Jump the tree.
Okay.
Yeah. So
do you think the reason for that was just because she was perched on this kind of small-ish branch on all fours? It
could have been. If you noticed, there was a point where she tried to get a better position, which is what they'll often do, is get to a spot where they can kind of lay on the branches.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What was going through your mind, TJ, when you first pulled up on it
and saw it?
Yeah.
I was just in awe at being that close to that kind of predator and looking at its eyes. And it seemed, that lion in the trees seemed, like you said, eerily calm, and just kind of, like you said, looking at Blue, looking at us. And I was just taking it in. I mean, it's kind of been a dream of mine to see a mountain lion in Idaho and being able to actually put eyes on it.
Yeah.
And for me, holding the camera, being able to take pictures and video of it, and just the sounds of the dogs and looking at the lion and feeling my excitement, both of you being excited. Like, it was a very surreal moment. I could have stayed there for however long that lion would have let us stay there.
Seriously.
And just watched it.
Have you ever done that where you wait not in a cruel way, but you just wait, in maybe 15 minutes the cat will be up there, and you are sitting there taking photos and savoring it. Obviously not going to harvest it, you get out of there, but like, what's the longest you've ever seen a cat just hang up in a tree?
I don't know how long, what the longest has been necessarily, but I will often like get there and, I give the dogs some praise and I let them have their moment, and bark at the tree. And, we're not jumping these things and, and making them get out of the tree so the dogs can chase them again or anything like that. I mean, when we get to the tree, it's done.
Right.
And, you give the dogs their praise. I try to get a good picture. And so usually the amount of time I'm there is generally like as long as it takes to get the picture that I want.
Okay.
To get some video of my dogs or whatever today, which
Carson breaks out another Uncrustable.
Yeah. Which today TJ did for me.
Yeah.
I had a professional videographer and cameraman there to get all the good media.
You use the term professional loosely.
Jokes on Carson.
He's a professional.
He has to edit all 2,700 of them.
That's good stuff. So anyway, I get some photos and then tell the dogs we're going home.
Yep.
And that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how long the cats hang out up there, but I actually have gone back to a few trees to see like, if they've come down yet. And generally in the handful of cases where I've done it, like within 30 minutes of you being gone, like that cat has gotten down out of the tree and gone about its business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dang.
So Connor, I want to hear what you were thinking. So I'm
still catching my breath.
Well, yeah, I know that. So Carson's handling the dogs. I've got the camera in my hands. I'm taking it in. You've got a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
Thinking like, am I gonna harvest this animal? Like, what's going through your mind? How you feeling?
I'm watching Carson mostly just to see like what his demeanor is, because he knows his dogs. He knows he probably has the best idea what the cat's gonna do. Meanwhile, I'm thinking like I've never looked at an animal with the intent of killing it through a scope and had it be looking back at me. That to me was weird. Not weird, but it was just very, very unusual to have that moment with something where you're like, if I'm gonna shoot this or not. But this, seeing it 30 or 25 yards away on a tree branch at eye level, was really surreal. But I don't know, it was just weird how calm Carson was, how long the moment seemed to last. I know there was at some point we started getting a little jumpy because the cat was getting jumpy, and it was kind of more of like, all right, if we're going to do this, we got to do this. But it was just amazing. To me, it felt like it was 5 minutes of you taking photos and Carson sitting there with the dog.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I mean, we set out to, it's not like the end goal of this was to harvest one.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
that was an option.
Well, it was undecided. Really?
Yeah.
We decided that we were going to, the three of us were going to hunt together.
Yeah.
And the goal was to go have some fun and
experience
the hounds and hopefully catch a cat. And the option was there to harvest one. So,
yeah.
I mean, and you chose to harvest.
Yeah. And that was, and then the tables turned. Carson's dream chase went from heaven to nightmare in about 25 seconds or so. But yeah, long story short, I mean, the scope was blurry and it looked like I fell
down a hill basically. And so, yeah, the scope was blurry. It had snow in it.
I don't know how many feet we dropped coming down from the snowmobiles, but it had to have been like 300 feet. It seemed like.
Yeah, it was a ways down there in the bottom.
In like 100 yards.
Yeah, but 100 yards. Yeah, it was steep, man.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, bad shot. And you immediately go, crap. And I'm like thinking, oh, Carson's never going to take me out again or even want to talk look the other way when I'm in the office.
Yeah.
But
no, it's
explain that moment, Carson.
Like, the whole moment actually didn't take that long. It seemed like it was forever from shot to harvested lion, but it was probably
quick.
It was probably just a couple of minutes. But you know, like anything, like when you make that first shot, the animal doesn't always go down immediately. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the cat didn't. And I had the dogs. I had Blue tethered back, and you don't want a wounded cat on the ground, especially one that's fairly mobile. And so, that it didn't go down with that first shot. If you remember, it jumped out of that tree and hit the ground at a full tilt run. Actually didn't go very far, and you were able to get down there and make a follow-up shot, and it all ended just fine. But not without the dogs baying it up real quick.
Yeah,
and that was helpful because it kept it there. But that's hunting, you know, and stuff happens, and it doesn't always go perfectly, and we all want that perfect shot. You know, perfect first shot, animal goes down, you know, there's not much suffering, and it's final. Yeah. It doesn't always go that way. And in this case, it didn't go that way, but we were able to see it to conclusion very quickly. And you've got a beautiful mountain lion now and some meat for the freezer.
It's a pretty sweet cat. But that's another thing that was so strange about the whole pursuit, the stalk or whatever, was the first thing in my mind was after it fell out of the tree and Carson saying crap and like definitely having a moment of what are we going to do now? I was thinking like that cat's gone. The hunt is over. Like it would be with like if I had missed a shot on an elk or something and never see that elk again. But you were thinking like my dogs. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't want the dogs catching them on the ground.
Right.
And so that's what was going on. I wasn't worried about finding the cat. I'm not worried about us, about us, ultimately getting it.
Yeah.
It was more just about, like, if you remember, I kind of sat there for 30 seconds or so, just gaming it out and figuring out what to do there. And that situation has happened before, where it's like, okay, what did I see? Where was the shot? How good was it? Do we have a dead cat, right down the hill? Do we have one that's still mobile and could it fight the dogs, kind of thing? And so how do you approach that? Right.
Yeah.
Do you put the dogs right back on it? Is it going to tree again, or is it going to be on the ground? Is it dead? You don't know. And so that's the difference between turning the dogs out again or hooking them up to a leash and walking that track out, which, if you remember, I had Blue on a leash.
I thought you were going to die.
Yeah.
I could barely hold him back. I mean, and so it wasn't,
dude, that wasn't going to work. You got down that mountain so fast down to the valley floor. Like I was still way behind TJ, and TJ was cruising, but dude, you were gone. Well, and I get
Blue
why.
Was dragging him down there.
I know, but it's also, but your other dog was free, right?
She was.
She was chasing after the cat.
Yeah. If you remember, she was acting a little bit goofy and, not goofy, but she's being a pup, So Bess is 3. She's a 3-year-old black and tan. She's been on a lot of cats now. She's been on some successful hunts where we've harvested cats, and she knows a lot. She's gained a lot of experience, but she's still a little bit of a pup sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas like you saw Blue today, I mean, he's old reliable, right?
Yeah.
You know what that dog's going to do. He does it all right. And then, her, like, she got to the tree. She couldn't locate the cat. She kept going back to that tree, but she was also like snooping around.
Yeah.
Right. She was following the back track. She'd go 50 yards out. She'd come back. She'd bark at the tree, and she'd just being a pup.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't get a leash on her. But if you remember, she caught that thing. I mean, she backed that thing into the tree well, and she kept him there until we could get down there and finish the deal.
That was also crazy to be. What do you think we were? 10 yards?
Oh yeah,
from the mountain
for
line?
sure, under that tree.
Yeah,
with the dog's holding it there.
Yeah,
that's not a situation that you hope for, And, and as much as it gets your adrenaline going and it is exciting in the moment, it's not the way you want it to go.
Right.
And so, it's the way it played out today, and that's hunting. Sometimes some stuff happens, and you gotta figure out how to make it right and how to do it safely and all that. But in a perfect world, we try to make sure it's more controlled.
And a sight in your rifle a little closer to 30
We're going to take Connor to the range before we go hunt again.
It's not my fault the thing was sighted in at 300 yards.
And you're shooting at 30 yards.
And it looked like I was looking through like a stretched out rubber glove. All I could see was just like the silhouette.
That is the biggest issue with, you're hunting in the winter and you pull that rifle out of a warm gun case, and then you pack a bunch of snow in it from going down the hill and going through these. I mean, I already told you about all the trees and how heavy they were with snow.
Yeah.
You brush one of those trees and it all comes falling down.
I didn't, dude.
So
I didn't.
The lenses were just packed with snow.
I didn't just brush those trees. I took them out.
So, no, I'm happy for you. Happy you were able to harvest a nice cat. And that was, apart from the one, the one little element of it that didn't go exactly perfect. I mean, it was an extraordinary day in the woods. I mean, just the weather, the snow, the scenery. I mean, it was awesome.
Pack out.
And then we have this picture perfect track, picture perfect dog work.
Yeah.
It was great.
So basically you're saying everybody succeeded except like Shooter.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. It was a perfect example of a hunt, except for the guy who took the shot.
And in relation to the pack out, Connor, there's really no fun pack outs.
I don't know, man. I told you, I was like, I've had elk pack outs that were easier than that. That was stupid.
You put them on your shoulders and you.
Carson's built like a muskox, man. It was so dumb. I was like,
so dumb.
Carson's got like we were trying to drag it up. Originally, I was like, I'll just carry this thing on my back like firemen carry. Well, that lasted about 5 yards until
it lasted 10 yards
until the elevation pitched up more than 1%. And then Carson's dragging the thing by the paw all the way up the hill. Not like all by yourself. I was grabbing the tail. I was like, I'm trying to help.
Hey, you bought me dinner. We're square now.
I owe you a lot more than a burger.
It's done. We got it done.
Man.
I'm looking forward to, I'm
It's
very
your turn,
much looking
TJ.
forward to the backstrap. Eating some backstrap tonight when we get back to my house. Let my kids eat some of that. Talking to them about the hunt. Like, that's pretty cool.
I want to
stuff.
know some good mountain lion recipes. I know you got a bunch.
Well, I don't know about I think you're talking to the wrong guy for that. I'm not much of a cook.
He's only killed one.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I get mountain lion meat occasionally, from friends when they harvest one or something, and I enjoy it. But yeah, it's not like something I have in my freezer all the time, which is like that's the novelty of it, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's like it's different than the sort of mahogany colored meat that venison and stuff that we're accustomed to having in our freezers all the time. Like it's more like pork.
Yeah.
It looks like pork.
It looked a lot like pork, man.
It doesn't taste exactly like pork, of course, but it has its own taste to it. But it's a good mild flavor, and it just has that pork like texture and consistency, which is a bit of a novelty.
Yeah. Write in if you have any mountain lion recipes.
There you go.
Put them in the comments.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So Carson, what's your all-time favorite lion hunt that you've been on? And
I have two.
You just told it.
today.
Yeah.
Well, today was a great one.
I got to say that.
Yeah.
No, it was.
But I want to hear your favorite or two favorites. Yeah, it'd be great.
Anytime I can take people out and show them a cat is a great hunt. But I've got because I spend most of my time hunting alone. I have a couple of friends that I hunt pretty somewhat consistently with from year to year. But like 50% of the time, 50% or more of the time, I'm by myself, which I really like. I like hunting with friends. I also like hunting alone, and
With your buddies.
with my buddies. And it really is like, I like being out in the woods with my dogs where I don't have the distraction sometimes of other people
Totally.
and other people's dogs often because they bring their hounds sometimes, and that's also fun. And there's a place for that too. And I enjoy that aspect of hound hunting, but I also enjoy just being out there, like working with my dogs alone, my pack of dogs. And, I kind of lost my train of thought now. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, but stories. Yeah. Which leads me into my favorite hunts there's two of them. The first cat that I like cold trailed with Blue as a pup, and it was a solo catch of his, like his first solo catch lion was a pretty special hunt, and just another kind of day like today. It was just everything was good about that day, and everything was right, and to just finish it off with him catching that cat was awesome, and then I harvested my first lion last year. After many, many years of hunting lions, I decided to cut a tag on one last year, and it was just like another one of those. It was a great day, and it was just one of those hunts where I didn't know if I was going to harvest that cat or not, but it just checked all the boxes. It was Blue again, solo catch. Close to my home in a place that I really enjoy hunting. And yeah, it was the right one. And so I decided that was going to be a cat that I took. And then, both of my boys and my wife met me halfway up the mountain and helped me pack it out. And it was just kind of a cool experience, for the kids to see it and be a part of that whole thing. There's no way they could have made it to the tree because it was just in one of those awful places. But they got to share the latter part of the hunt with me, and that was just really cool.
So what did that race look like? Like you found, or finding the tracks, like how'd that all play out? Because I only have today's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it looked like. This is how it went.
Perfect hunt.
Right.
Perfect shot.
Right.
Perfect hunter.
Like how'd that all play out?
Much differently than today.
Okay.
So I'll just tell the story of how my winter went last year.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to get my timing a little bit wrong because my brain's a little foggy in relation to how it all played out. But maybe a week before Christmas, I was hunting this. It's a big drainage. It's probably a 200 to 300 square mile drainage.
Oh, wow.
And we were hunting this. I'd been hunting this area pretty consistently, and it's not a spot that consistently holds lions. I mean, occasionally you find one in there, and I hunted enough that every winter catch a cat in there. But last year, about a week to 10 days before Christmas, I noticed that there was a female with 3 adult kittens with her, like grown kittens, like 85-pound kittens. And so they were probably 12 months old.
Oh, so bigger than today's. So.
Close to
Thanks, Carson.
Close to 12 months old. They were almost as big as mom, right? And just like the family of traveling cats that we saw yesterday, the tracks.
Okay.
Same kind of situation, except for these kittens seem to be a little bit older based on the size of the track. But anyway, they were hanging out in there, and I had gone in there a couple times and caught them. Not all of them, but one here, one there kind of thing. And then the day after Christmas, I went up there to hunt on a fresh snow. It was the day actually that I caught 3 lions in one day.
Okay.
And it was just one of those days, like, we ended up on a split race where both dogs like headed in different directions for different cats. Each one of them treed one. And then on the way out, we found another fresh track from probably one of the same lions in that group. And we turned out on that one and caught it. And I found that day a very large lion track. And so if you saw it today, one of the first things you'll do when you kind of size up that track is measure it.
Yeah.
And so you'll measure the stride on it, right? Where the distance between, because cats will step in there, right there, they make a track with their front foot, and then their back foot steps in the same side steps in the same hole in the same track, right?
For the kids at home, what's that called again?
I don't actually remember the name.
Oh,
what is it?
I don't know.
There's a word for it.
I know. Okay, we'll look it up.
But yeah. So you can measure that stride, right? How the distance between tracks on one side. And when you have a over 40-inch stride, that's kind of like the benchmark. That generally, like, that's a large cat. It's hard to tell.
Over 40.
Yeah, over 40 is good. Like, in my experience, like, those cats are generally toms. Not always. They're big. They're occasionally you catch large females that'll have an over 40-inch stride. But a lot of times, like, especially if you can get a good look at the toes and it's over a 40-inch stride, like, you can be fairly confident that it's probably a tom.
Okay.
And often that can be a very large tom. Well, this particular track on this cat was big. I mean, it was big in just like circumference.
Just
like
the size of
just
the
the
track.
diameter of that track was big. I mean, just big rounded toes, which is indicative of an old tom. And I thought that I measured this thing wrong when I saw it. And this is an old track, right? It was snowed in a little bit from the fresh snow that we had just gotten. And this is going back to the day after Christmas last year. And there was a dusting of snow in it, but I measured it was 50 inches.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, that's exceptional. What's going on here? And I was convinced I measured it wrong, and I measured it in a few more places. And it's walking a road. It's walking down a road. So there's no variation in this cat's stride. I mean, it's walking a flat road. Like, that's what it is.
He's just strolling.
And this thing was like 51 inches. And so that's big. That's real big. And so I knew that was like probably one that I would want to get a look at. And I started driving some different routes and trying to deduce where this cat may have been going. And it was pretty clear that, like, it was moving upslope and in relation to that other group of lions, the female with adult,
like
young.
Following them.
I think he was shadowing her. I'm guessing. I'm guessing. I don't know, but like, just based on what I was seeing and how he was using that drainage in relation to where I was finding sign from the other cats, it looked like he was shadowing her. And this is, month from when she may go into heat again. And so I think that he was probably like, kind of waiting it out to see if, there was potential to breed her or something like that. But it was clear that just based on like where he'd come from, I hadn't seen his tracks before. I'd been spending a lot of time in there. He had moved into this area and he was working in there. And so, and that's like not uncommon for large toms to do, especially like if a female is carrying like young kittens. Infanticide is very common in lion populations, which is where adult males in this case will kill kittens to bring a female back into heat again, so that he can breed.
I didn't know that lions would do that.
Yeah, so infanticide very common in mountain lion populations, and so in this case these are adult kittens. Like if he moved, he wasn't probably trying to do that. Like if he moved in and tried to, scare them off, they probably just,
go up a tree.
Well, they probably would, and then
coming up.
and then they're probably going to disperse, and especially the males. In this case, her young males are going to go try to find a different place to carve out a living and find a territory. And so, where there's not another adult tom that's already set up shop. And so, anyway, I'm guessing at what he was doing in there, but he was making some very conspicuous movements and stuff, and I couldn't find the fresh end of that track. But a couple days later, I found his track again, and I felt like it was, if you remember last winter, like awful snow.
Yeah.
It didn't snow a lot, so really infrequent snows. The few snows that we did get, it just dumped. And then from like the middle of January till, for the rest of the year, it never snowed again in a lot of like this area around Coeur d'Alene. And so, we just had really poor conditions, old rotten snow that we were trying to hunt on. And I found a more recent track of his, like 2 to 3 days later. And, I felt like that one was fresh enough to like try to run. And the dogs did run it. They trailed him for a long ways. Like I said, he was moving, and he spent a lot of time moving around.
Really quick, Carson, how far from like the 2 days previous to this day's like tracks?
Not very far, actually.
Okay.
So he was moving around. He was covering a lot of country, but he was staying in this drainage. So he was maybe a mile and a half from where I first saw his tracks.
Oh, wow.
That day where I measured them. And so, yeah, I definitely knew that was a cat that I wanted to get a look at, potentially harvest, and turn the dogs out on. They ran that track for like 10 miles, and I ended up like gathering them up like toward dark, and we called it off. But it gave me, we'd caught up to him somewhat, and we knew where to start looking from there on out. And so it was, it was probably that was around New Year's. I'm trying to remember how this all unfolded. About another, say, 4 or 5 days after that, a good friend of mine, and an employee of ours, Chris Bragg, who's getting into hound dogging, was hunting, who was on your podcast, was hunting that same area he's trying to get into this. He's got a pup. He's trying to train it. And last year he was in that area, and he found a tom track, kind of in the bottom end of this drainage. And he told me about it, and it looked like a big track. And I was thinking that could be that cat. And I was like super excited that maybe it was. And I went up there, and I turned the dogs out on it, and long race, even though it was a fresh track in some fairly new snow, that tom was moving, and they went 7 miles. They covered 7 miles.
Wow.
They ended up catching the cat maybe 2.5, 3 miles from where we turned out, but the entire race took them 7 miles. We caught it. I didn't get to the tree till after dark. It was a full moon, and I remember I could see it in the tree. And I don't know if it was the big cat or if it was another tom.
Did you have like a light you were shining up on it, or
no? And remember, you can't use artificial light to hunt big game.
Right, but can you look at them?
No,
you can't.
No. So you'll notice, like yesterday when we started looking for tracks before it was totally light, like I'm not shining light or anything like that, except for just like utilizing what you can see in the headlights as you're driving, because, you know, shining light on stuff is technically not legal. And so, so no, I wasn't going to put light on that cat, but I could see it pretty well. And I still don't know if it was the big one or not. I don't know if it was the
but
big
it's
one
in
or
the
not.
tree and you have to make the decision, and I'm not shining light on it, and I got to leave it.
Exactly. So I left it. And this is on a Sunday. I had to work the next day, and I really wanted to go back up there and turn the dogs out of that tree.
Totally.
And see if we catch it. But I had obligations and stuff. Remember, I'm a working guy. And I can't hound hunt every day, unfortunately. And so I had some obligations the next day. And
you tell it just to stay there.
Yeah, I wish.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
But
don't go anywhere.
It wasn't going to work out that way. And so so I left it, gathered up the dogs, and went home.
Was that hard?
Yeah, it was hard.
I bet it was, man.
Yeah. And then later on in that week, I still don't know if it was this same cat or not. I do know, all I know is that, because I never did get a chance to, or not get a chance to, I never did measure that cat's track. It was a large tom that ended up in that tree and that had made that track. Anyway, later on that week, I found Mr. Big's track again. And this was like midweek. I was actually going up there to check my coyote sets, and went up there and I saw Mr. Big's track.
Fresh.
A couple days old.
Okay.
Was this the day you were like, "Hey TJ, can you cover for me at the front?"
Yeah, exactly.
RO.
Remembering this.
Turned the dogs out. We had a long race again. Didn't have a lot of time that day until it got dark. Had to gather up the dogs, but we had a new starting point. I think it was that Saturday. Okay, we're into the second week in January now. It was a Saturday, and we had just a skiff, 1/4 inch of snow, fluffy styrofoam snow, right? Not the wet, sticky stuff that I said is so good for tracking. The stuff where you blow on it and it just goes everywhere, right? And I'm driving to my spot, and I'm going down the main road, which very rarely I see lions crossing the main road down low in this drainage, but I'm going to my spot where I'm going to start looking for tracks, and I notice a lion's crossed the road, the main road, and it's just getting light, and the way the cat came down, he kind of came down off this cut bank, and unbeknownst to me, it was Mr. Big. But I didn't know that, and I couldn't tell because they'd bladed the road. They'd been maintaining the road, so it's been bladed. All there was on the road was that little bit of dusty snow from the night before, and so it was really hard to it wasn't great snow. There wasn't much of it, and so you couldn't really see much of the track. You know, it was just kind of obfuscated, and it just wasn't a nice clean track. It was easy to gauge, and also he came off this cut bank, and then and then what it looked like was that he'd taken a couple of bounds across the road. And so there just wasn't just based on what he did when he walked across the road, there wasn't a good way to measure it or really size that track up or determine what I was
Did you measure its bound?
Exactly.
155.
Yeah.
6 feet.
Yeah.
All I could tell was that it was a lion, right? But there were a lot of cats in there. Who knows what it was? And there wasn't enough evidence there to really at the time make me think that, okay, this is the one that I've been after now for several weeks.
And you were there looking for him.
I was going there to look for that.
For that cat.
I was looking for him, yes. And I was going to start looking where the dogs had left off a few days before, which was several miles from where I was on the main road. And at the time, I didn't have enough sense to look off the edge and go down below the road and figure out if I could see a better track, measure a stride. So I continue on my hunt.
You left it.
I go up the road, and I'm thinking, who knows what I got here? I go on my way back, I can turn the dogs out. We can run this as a backup. Well, I'm going up this road, and that lion had come down from upslope, had crossed the road above me, probably several hundred vertical feet, and then it had gone down and it had crossed a creek in the bottom too. This road follows this main drainage up.
What was it called again?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And anyway, I get, say, a half mile up the road, and there's a fresh bobcat track in the road, and it's bobcat season. And I'm like, well, hell, I'll turn out on this. I've been trying to train my dogs to catch bobcats. They're no good at it, but I've been working on it. So I'm like, here we go. Here's a training opportunity, and I know it's pretty fresh. So I turn Blue out on that bobcat, and he's working it pretty good, which is good for Blue because he's not really a bobcat dog. But he's working it, and he's working upslope. So this bobcat had worked in the opposite direction as the lion had, but where they cross the road is, say, half a mile apart. But Blue is working up in the direction that I know that lion had walked down the slope, right? Had walked down this little finger ridge. But he's trailing that bobcat. And I'm watching him on the receiver. And another big advantage of this is, in this case, what I'm about to tell you, like what Blue did, you can deduce from watching their movements on the receiver. That bobcat crossed that lion's tracks, and Blue hit that, and he starts screaming downhill. So he is now sidetracked. He's lost interest in the bobcat, and he is going
literally.
He's bombing downhill on that lion track, and I'm like, gosh dang it! I need to get him gathered up so we can go look for Mr. Big. So I get my machine turned around, and I head back down. I'm gonna gather Blue up on the road. But he is trucking. I don't get to him in time. He crosses the road, crosses the creek. He's gone.
He's hot on the
trail. He's now up on the other side of this drainage, which is a big kind of roadless portion of it that's pretty tough to get into. And so it's like, well, we're going to a lion tree. So I turn the pup out on it, and she packs in behind Blue. And ultimately, like, I gather up all my stuff. I took my rifle too, because I didn't know. And I was able to get down into a flat area, like where that cat had walked along the creek. And that's when I was able to see a very distinguishable track where he was taking a full stride. And I saw, oh, we're on the one that I've been looking for.
Big.
But I was all goofed up based on what happened on the road, which was, it was poor sign. Right. It just wasn't great sign. Yeah. And so the way I tell the story is, you hear houndsmen often talk about their dogs trashing out, right? You like to trash break your dogs so that they don't chase things like deer or moose or things like that. Super important part of training hounds is to make sure that they're broke from that. And that when they're trailing a lion, they don't get sidetracked by the moose that walks in front of them or a deer track that's super fresh that they come across. They're going to be deliberate about following just the game that you train them to follow or trail. And so in this case, though, on the bobcat race, he trashed out on the lion.
That's all right.
Anyway, so it was about a 3-mile race. And over the course of probably 30 minutes, he moved that track very quickly and caught it. And I hiked in there in some fairly deep snow, and I got to the tree, and I was like, whoa, I don't know if that's the cat that we were looking at in the moonlight a week ago or not. I still don't know if there were 2 big toms in there. But what I do know is that the cat that was in that tree is almost certainly the cat that we began hunting around Christmas, the year before.
Right.
So about 3 weeks before. And anyway, and I ended up harvesting that cat, and is an exceptional cat. I'm not real into scoring animals or anything like that, but like for people that are interested in like Boone and Crockett scores, he's 15.5 inches is the measurement of his skull, which puts him like mid-book.
Wow.
So it's what did you
say he weighed again?
Well, when we got him back to the house, and so I packed him out whole, and I weighed him when we got back to the house, and he was 175. So,
and you packed him out whole on your shoulders.
Yes.
Yes. For how many miles?
2.
There you go.
Screw me, man. Like, were you just thinking the whole time, like, this weenie can't even carry it up 45 yards to the road?
I took my pack out pretty slow.
Okay.
So you got, deep snow and pack boots and no snowshoes in that case. So you gotta
tread on your boots.
Yeah. It was kind of funny. And you remember how last winter was, like, it warmed up a lot.
Yeah.
We had a lot of melting. So like you'd go through like some north aspects where there was still like a lot of snow and you were kind of post-holing through that crusty stuff. And then you'd get into other stuff, especially when you got down a little lower and there was nothing but that dusting from the night before, So whereas today we were in a foot of snow on top of some real slick stuff
the whole time,
straight uphill, and there was like no base to it. It was kind of hard to get
a whopping 75 yards from the road.
Yeah.
Whopping.
Son of a gun.
Man, that's cool. That is a very cool story.
Yeah, that's how that played out. So yeah, it was just a special, like I really like hunted, a lion for a long time, became very familiar with how he was using that area, trailed him multiple times. It didn't work out. Maybe caught him once before, maybe didn't. I still don't know. And then, just a solo catch with my old dog, who's
old reliable,
my old buddy.
Well, I again want to thank you for taking us out. I'm super, super thankful for it. I'll never forget it. Thankfully, I work in the same office as you, so I am going.
There you go.
I'm going to be hitting you up to go again. I'll be, as you were to Pete, I will be to you.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I am very much looking forward to eating that backstrap tonight.
Oh, man.
I'm seriously so stoked about it. Like, as I was watching you pull it off and looking at it, I was like,
that's why you were licking your lips.
Yeah, it is.
Put that in the crock pot
like
tonight.
a nice piece of pork right there.
It did, man.
It did. Really good.
Are you actually going to take him out? I mean, I know today set the bar really high.
We're going to go out.
I'll take anybody out whenever I'm able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on the podcast. We all heard it.
I just want to shout both of you guys out though, because spending the last 2 days in the trucks with you guys and seeing, because again, I'm the outsider here. I'm coming up to see you guys in your natural element that this region, you're here every single day of your lives, and just seeing the way that you two interacted with locals. We talked to that one guy yesterday, who was a bear hunter. We had a really cool, insightful conversation about wolves with him, and it was and he was stopped on the side of the highway, handing out lunches.
Yeah.
And it was like, you handled it so well, and you talked to him, and he was a really cool guy. And then our new buddy, the trapper, I don't run into trappers a whole lot when I'm hunting down south, and just seeing you like strike up a conversation with multiple trappers, but this guy in particular, we ran into him 4 times in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool to see you had your hound hunter or your trapper hat on, and it was just cool just to like see that interaction between you and him. And then at the end of the day, we're driving back. He sees the cat on the back of your Ski-Doo, and he's like, hell yeah. He's just stoked on it.
Came up and gave you, like, shook your hand and said congrats.
Yeah, it was like I won the
man.
lottery.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you acknowledge that, because like you mentioned earlier, Carson, like, we do the things that they are, like, we're just like them. Like, we do the things that they're passionate about. And like, I got into this profession because I care about those people. I want them and myself selfishly to be able to continue doing these types of things. And so it means a lot to me because it means a lot to them. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And you know what it would feel like if that was taken away from you.
100%.
So
I'd be devastated.
Yeah. But yeah, just wanted to say great job you guys up here, because they definitely have a sense of the community. And
I hope our wolf trapper friend is listening to your podcast, so that
Something
because he'll know who he
tells me-
is.
He gets a shout out.
He'll know who he is.
Yep.
yeah.
Because he knows me. I run into him quite frequently up there, and I think he knows that he knows where I work and stuff. So
Tell him to listen.
Yeah.
We'll shout him out.
I will.
He was
Next
cool.
time I run into him.
He's a cool guy.
He's everywhere.
Is he?
Well, he seems to be.
Oh,
certainly.
wait, no, with the wolf trapper
Certainly
guy?
over the last couple of days has covered a lot of country. But we
Oh,
have to.
Man.
Oh, okay, not the guy TJ and I were talking to.
No, different.
Okay,
guy.
the guy we saw today.
That was another guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy we saw today, though.
I'm talking about our wolf trapper friend.
Yeah, he was a hoot, man.
Yeah, he's a good fella.
Well, Carson, thanks again, man.
You bet. We covered a lot of miles.
We do. Is there anything that we forgot to ask you or didn't ask you, or anything you want to say?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You got a hell of a story, man. All kinds of stories.
Good stuff.
You got a bobcat at home. You got to go stretch and tan and
I do.
skin,
Yes.
stick on a
Your
board.
day is not over.
Yeah. First one of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the calendar year or the season?
Season.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. We'll get it done. Thanks again, Carson. This has been, personally speaking, something that I'll remember for forever.
Good.
Whether I end up shooting another mountain lion one day or not, it's like, this was the experience that I don't know if I could say I hoped for, but it definitely went above and beyond that. And having TJ there to kind of show me the ropes and just have conversations with the last 2 days, man, has been absolutely awesome. So
Good. I'm happy to introduce you guys to it.
yeah, are you hooked?
I am. I'm already thinking about when we're going to go out next. So you mentioned Saturday. So
There you go. Yeah.
I'm going to go on the dog classifieds on my way home. See if there's any,
I got a couple hounds.
See if there's any Blueticks on
And that's the whole
Marketplace.
thing that we didn't get into in this podcast.
Oh, part 2.
No, is keeping hounds, right?
oh
Yeah.
gosh.
I mean, it is any kind of working dog is a huge investment of your life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hounds, I jokingly tell people all the time that they run my life.
I stepped in a huge
And
investment of TJ's dog this morning getting into the truck out on his basketball court,
He's
man.
over there kicking around in a puddle. I'm like, what are you doing?
It was just right there at center court, too. And it was like right before I hopped in the
You
truck.
didn't get in the truck with poop on your shoe, did you?
I got most of it off. You can see
It was
there's still
on
some.
the asphalt.
Yeah.
Why does she do that?
So you smell like a mountain lion. Got poop on your shoe.
Yeah. Going for that Coeur d'Alene musk.
Late boss.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Carson.
You bet.
Take care, man.